Welcome to the Big Sunday Show. We begin with a Fox News alert. You are looking live in Uvalde, Texas, where state lawmakers who are investigating the shooting at Robb Elementary School are about to share details, startling details from their new 77-page report on the shooting. 19 students in all, 2 teachers killed in May. And the report is alarming. It cites systematic failures of law enforcement in its response. Surveillance video was obtained by the Austin American-Statesman and KVUE last week ahead of the report. The graphic footage was edited into shorter clips with some audio removed. It shows police officers' response that day, or lack thereof, which critics have slammed since its release. Now, this new report reveals there were actually nearly 400 officers who all responded that fatal day, from federal, state, and local agencies. About 90 of them were state police, nearly 150 Border Patrol were there, about 24 Uvalde City police officers, and more than a dozen sheriff's deputies and 5 school district police officers. This was unprecedented for so many reasons, but the number of law enforcement that arrived on that day and that police chief that made a fatal decision not to send them in. The police chief, square one, right there. The question is, should the law enforcement officers known better to storm the building and ignore their chief?
The answer is yes. Ever since Columbine,
Yeah.
we don't wait.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear. I want to be clear to the American public. 98% of law enforcement do a great job 24/7.
Yeah.
We cannot excuse the mistakes that these officers made because 98% of the officers protect us 24/7. Let's also not forget that the person who killed is the bad guy.
Yep.
But these officers' failure to charge the videotape is inexcusable. And if we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again, we got to make sure there's policies and procedures in place where officers have a moral obligation to respond to a person who is basically killing innocent people.
And what's so horrific is that we just talked about, the Border Patrol agents that were there. A lot of these Border Patrol agents had children in this school. Their own children were in that building, and they didn't even storm in. I mean, I can't imagine as a parent, not a law enforcement official, but just as a parent, could you imagine the parents that were sitting out there?
I mean, I really couldn't.
I have chills just thinking about it every single time. It's so heartbreaking.
Well, and you understand why there's a chain of command. There's a chain of command in law enforcement. There's a chain of command in the military. But there is also something in psychology, it's called the bystander effect. And essentially, it means that when you're in large groups, people often assume that there is someone else that has taken control. So when you have all of these different agencies, you have state, local, federal law enforcement all there, it appears that unfortunately, sadly, and tragically, possibly that's what happened here. Somebody was waiting for another person to take charge and direct people as to what to do. But Leo, you're exactly right. You should never wait. If there are lives on the line and you know you can make a difference, apparently one of these individuals, one of the law enforcement officers inside, had the ability to take this guy out, the shooter in the school out, and he hesitated and he waited because he didn't get an answer from his superior. That is totally unacceptable, and I think the best we can hope here is that this is a learning experience, that from this point forward, we never, ever have to see something this tragic happen again.
I mean, it is so tragic. And it also is another reminder to schools all over the country, because as you probably know, in your school, I'm sure that they sent out an email. All parents across the country are saying, well, what is the protocol? And why aren't there armed officers at every single school in this country at this point? I mean, that's what I'd like to know.
A very important question. And what makes this thing all so horrifying, and by the way, I agree, and we have to begin every conversation with this, that 99% of cops are brave, good cops.
Heroes,
and for that reason, I think that every time you have a situation like this, we need to start from the standpoint of giving them the benefit of the doubt and then follow the facts from there, as I think we're doing here. And the facts are leading to a very, very dark spot, obviously. Not only did they fail to do their job, and your analysis, Laura, about why is, I think, probably a charitable one. But the point is, not only did they fail to do their job, they prevented mothers and fathers in the crowd from doing that. They arrested them, detained them, and prevented them from going in. And this idea that that they want to blame it on a chain of command, I get that. But at some point, I mean, you have to sort of ask yourself this really horrifying question right now. Would more children have maybe survived if the cops had never responded?
Well, you know what? The thing that's sad in those videos, and I want to be very clear, transparency is important because we learn from transparency.
Absolutely.
And those videos are disturbing. A guy, one of the officers washing his hands, they're sitting back. This is very disappointing because they didn't show the leadership. And I think it's important that all the facts are out. We make sure this never happens again, but we don't hide the facts from the parents who are suffering and grieving.
This 77-page report, by the way, it's basically being led by Texas State Representative Dustin Burrows. He is the chairman of the committee looking into this shooting. They're going to be holding a news conference shortly, and that's kind of what we're waiting for right now to hear more. But this 77-page report, it's really the first time that we've actually seen facts to back up what we didn't want to report at the beginning, because of course you never want to blame law enforcement until you know all the facts. But this 77-page report really is alarming, and it's damning evidence.
And honestly, it goes back to what Charlie said. We want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but we have to treat them like everyone else when it comes to fairness, equality, and justice. And the justice, if the facts go against them, they have to be held accountable, not for the actual killings, but their failure to execute a plan that they should have known.
And that should be the case in every time we ask important questions about law enforcement action. We should begin from the standpoint of, I think, giving them the benefit of the doubt because they have an impossible job. But from that point on, everything has to be based on actual facts and studying. Injecting political slogans into this stuff is horrifying. And it doesn't do anything to make police better. And it doesn't solve any problems. And obviously it doesn't fix the horrifying tragedy that this is.
And as bad as this was in the moment and on that day and forever changed the lives of obviously 21 families who lost loved ones, 19 children and 2 adults, obviously. They want closure. You know, these people are having to relive this. I feel like every time we have a situation like this, and we want to get to the bottom of it, but I hope we can do that and allow these people to move on with their lives and have a little bit of closure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 376 law enforcement. I mean, that is a big number. So now the question is accountability. How do you hold 300? I mean, it'd be one thing if it was just the police chief, right? But now we're talking 376 law enforcement. Yeah, absolutely. From every agency in the book. How do you hold all those people accountable
Laura
and still have a police department?
Is that chain of command, that discipline that they have to follow. You can't break that chain of command, but you see a situation. I think one of the officers who was getting a haircut, he heard from the situation from his wife, who
grabbed a shotgun from the barber
and went in there. So, I mean, sometimes you have to make that decision, notwithstanding the chain of command that you pointed out, Laura.
But and I get a little worried about the discussion about protocol, and obviously, local cops are going to want to try to shift blame, or I don't know if they are or not, but there becomes this discussion about whether it's local cops' fault or whatever. Protocol. You don't need protocol to rush a building.
No, that's
your
human
children,
instinct.
That's human instinct.
There are dying children in a building. There's a boy with a gun, a teenager with a gun. Your children are being shot. What do? Stand by and wait for somebody to tell you, for your human instinct to finally kick in? Absolutely.
And to think of that sniper that you just mentioned, who was outside. This is before the dude goes into the building. He has him in his rifle scope, radios to people back home, and they didn't even hear him or didn't respond or whatever. And I get why the cop didn't take him out. That's a pretty big deal. But that would have prevented
the entire situation.
Well, I think that the hardest thing about it is these officers were outside in the hallway and they heard gunfire. And that should have signaled them to go in. They heard gunfire during the course of the sound of gunfire. That was amazing. That was just unbelievable, unacceptable.
Yeah, now, I want to talk about this 18-year-old whose name I will never repeat out of my mouth. The 18-year-old who went in there and decided to cowardly kill children. He had a past, and this is what brings up red flag laws. Like, for example, here in New York State, but it's not bulletproof. You know this.
Oh, trust me.
Red flag laws. A lot of people want to. It is, and it's obviously not working. So if there was a red flag law in place and this guy had been flagged, he has to be considered mentally unfit to not be able to buy a gun,
But it doesn't get to the first step.
There were no red flags, even though he threatened to shoot up and kill people.
Red flags laws only work if family members are honest with each other. Because they're in denial of a kid who has a problem. They're in denial, and they don't want their laundry out in public. But if they're going to work, it starts at home by being honest about a problem.
So then, do the parents Do the parents, should
Everyone.
the parents be held liable? I'm not saying charge them with murder, but I'm sorry, I'm a parent.
I'm with
if you don't know what the heck your kid is doing and you don't realize your child has some serious issues, then you're not paying attention to your kids. Like, talk to your damn kids.
You can't say that a parent doesn't have some culpability.
Come on. I mean, I know everything, and I'm not a helicopter parent, but my God, I mean, you know what your children are doing every minute of the day, and you can see something's off when they're not in a good mood, and you talk to them.
Yes, and I mean,
I
I think most people who've looked at not just this situation, but others like it agree on that same thing. Parents have to have some responsibility.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.